7 lessons from Alexander Graham Bell that helped me get to millions. The phone rang for the 10th time that morning. I didn't answer. I was too busy staring at the eviction notice in my hands, trying to understand how I'd reached this point. An engineer with a degree, 3 registered patents, and there I was, about to lose the apartment where I'd spent the last 5 years trying to build something that mattered. The irony wasn't lost on me. Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone to connect people, and there I was, disconnecting from the world. My startup had failed 6 months earlier. The investors pulled out when we couldn't scale fast enough. My co-founder left to join Google, and my wife, well, she'd stopped believing in my dreams long before the money ran out. "You're chasing ghosts," she'd said the night she left. "Real life is happening right now, and you're missing it." Maybe she was right. But as I sat there, surrounded by boxes of prototypes that would never see the market, something inside me refused to accept defeat. I picked up an old biography of Bell that I'd bought at a garage sale years earlier. The spine was cracked, pages yellowed with age. I opened it randomly, and a quote jumped out at me. "Before anything else, preparation is the key to success." I laughed bitterly. I'd prepared for everything except failure. But as I kept reading, something shifted. Bell's story wasn't the smooth success narrative I had imagined. It was messy, filled with setbacks, deaths, and moments of crushing doubt. And yet, he persisted. That day, sitting on my apartment floor with an eviction notice in one hand and Bell's biography in the other, I made a decision. If I was going to fail, I'd fail learning from one of history's greatest inventors. I had 30 days before eviction, 30 days to turn everything around. This is the story of how 7 lessons from a man who died decades before I was born helped me build a company that would eventually sell for 8 figures. If you're reading this feeling like you're at the end of your rope, wondering if your dreams are worth the pain they're causing, this story is for you. Because sometimes the difference between giving up and breaking through is just one more day, one more lesson, one more attempt. Subscribe to hear more stories of transformation and triumph. Your breakthrough might just be one story away. Lesson 1. The power of obsessive focus. 3 days into my 30-day countdown, I discovered something that changed everything. Bell wasn't trying to invent the telephone. He was trying to help his mother hear. Both his mother and wife were deaf. His entire life's work centered around understanding sound, vibration, and communication. The telephone was just a byproduct of his obsession with helping the people he loved. I looked at my failed startup, a platform for connecting freelancers with businesses. It was a good idea, but it wasn't my obsession. It was what I thought would make money. That night, I made a list of every problem that kept me awake at night. Not business problems, personal problems, human problems. One stood out. My younger brother had dyslexia. Growing up, I'd watched him struggle with traditional learning methods. Brilliant, but unable to show it through conventional education. What if I could solve that? I spent the next 72 hours researching everything about learning disabilities, adaptive technologies, and educational psychology. I called my brother at 3 a.m. "Remember how you used to learn better when I explained things with drawings?" I asked him. "Yeah," he said, groggy but curious. Why are you calling me at 3 a.m. about this? Because I think I've been solving the wrong problem. When you find a problem that makes you lose sleep, that connects to someone you love, that refuses to leave your mind, that's your telephone moment. That's where million-dollar ideas are born. What problem keeps you awake at night? Share in the comments below. Lesson 2. Failure is just feedback in disguise. Day 7 of my countdown. I'd pitched my new idea, an adaptive learning platform for dyslexic students, to 12 potential investors. 12 rejections. The market's too small. Parents won't pay for this. You have no experience in education technology. Each rejection felt like a punch to the gut. But then I remembered Bell's first public demonstration of the telephone. People laughed. They called it a toy. The Western Union Telegraph Company famously rejected purchasing his patent for $100,000, calling it practically worthless. That worthless invention would go on to transform human civilization. Bell's response to rejection? He kept improving. Each no taught him something about what people didn't understand. He used their doubts as a roadmap for refinement. I started doing the same. After each rejection, I asked, "What specifically makes you doubt this will work?" The 13th investor, a woman named Sarah, whose son had learning disabilities, didn't reject me immediately. "The idea has merit, but your execution plan is all wrong. You're thinking like an engineer, not like a parent." Instead of defending my approach, I asked, "How would you do it?" She spent the next 2 hours redesigning my entire business model. By the end, we had something completely different and infinitely better. She became my first investor and eventual business partner. Every rejection carries the seed of your next breakthrough. The question is, are you listening closely enough to find it? Follow for more lessons on turning setbacks into comebacks. Lesson 3. Innovation happens at the intersection. Day 14, halfway through my countdown, and I was living on ramen noodles and hope. But something magical was happening. Sarah had introduced me to educators, therapists, and parents. Each conversation revealed new insights. That's when I discovered Bell's secret weapon. He wasn't just an inventor. He was a teacher of the deaf, a student of physiology, an experimenter in acoustics, and a businessman. The telephone emerged from the intersection of all these disciplines. Most people specialize. Bell synthesized. I started doing the same. Instead of just building technology, I shadowed special education teachers, studied cognitive psychology, learned about visual design for accessibility, interviewed hundreds of parents and students. Our platform stopped being just another app. It became a bridge between how dyslexic minds naturally work and how the world expects them to learn. One parent told me, "It's like you built a translator between my son's brain and his homework." That's when I knew we were on to something. Million-dollar ideas rarely come from going deeper into one field. They come from connecting fields that have never been connected before. What unexpected combinations could transform your industry? Lesson 4. The first version will be terrible. Ship it anyway. Day 18. Our first prototype was embarrassingly bad. The interface looked like it was designed by a colorblind engineer, which, to be fair, it was me. The user experience was clunky. Half the features didn't work properly. I wanted to wait, to perfect it, to make it amazing before anyone saw it. Then I read about Bell's first successful telephone transmission. The sound quality was so poor that his assistant, Thomas Watson, could barely understand the words. The device looked like a science experiment gone wrong, but Bell demonstrated it anyway. Because he understood something I was just learning: perfection is the enemy of progress. We launched our alpha version to 10 families. The feedback was brutal but invaluable. My son couldn't figure out how to navigate. The fonts are too small. It crashed 3 times in one session. But buried in the criticism was gold. When it worked, my daughter smiled while doing homework for the first time in years. My son said it made him feel smart. Can you add a feature for math? He struggles there too. Each piece of feedback made the next version better. By version 4, parents were asking how they could invest. Your first version should embarrass you. If it doesn't, you waited too long to ship. Subscribe to learn how imperfection can be your greatest advantage. Lesson 5. True success is built on service. Day 22. We had 50 beta users and growing, but money was running out fast. I was calculating runway on a napkin at a coffee shop when an elderly man at the next table struck up a conversation. "You look stressed," he said. I laughed, "Just trying to figure out how to keep my company alive for another month." He smiled. "What does your company do?" I gave him the pitch. His eyes lit up. "My granddaughter has dyslexia. She's brilliant, but school makes her feel stupid. How much do you need?" I was speechless. This stranger was offering to invest based on a coffee shop conversation. "Why?" I asked. "Because you're not trying to make money," he said. "You're trying to help kids like my granddaughter. The money will follow." He wrote a check for $50,000 on the spot. Later, I learned this was exactly how Bell operated. He didn't invent to get rich. He invented to serve, to help his deaf mother and wife connect with the world. The telephone made him wealthy, but wealth was never the goal. Service was. When we shifted our focus from "how do we make money" to "how do we serve these families better," everything changed. Parents became evangelists, spreading the word. Teachers started recommending us. Kids sent us thank you videos. Revenue followed impact, not the other way around. When you solve real problems for real people, success becomes inevitable. What would change if you focused on service instead of success? Lesson 6. Your biggest weakness might be your greatest strength. Day 25. 5 days left and a major competitor entered our space. EdTech giant with millions in funding, polished product, marketing machine. I panicked. How could we compete? Then I remembered something about Bell that I'd overlooked. He had a speech impediment as a child. The boy who would revolutionize communication struggled to communicate. But that struggle gave him empathy and insight that others missed. He understood communication challenges from the inside out. Our competitor had everything except what mattered most. They'd never lived with learning disabilities. Their solution was built by neurotypical engineers for neurotypical teachers. Ours was built by someone who'd watched his brother struggle every day. We leaned into this weakness. Our marketing became radically honest. Built by a brother who gets it. We know because we've lived it. Designed by families for families. The competitor's polished platform felt corporate and cold. Ours felt personal and understanding. Within 6 months, they pivoted to a different market. We kept growing. Your greatest competitive advantage might be hiding in what you think is your biggest weakness.
Follow for more unconventional wisdom on building breakthrough businesses. Lesson 7. Legacy is built one conversation at a time. Day 30. Eviction Day. But I wasn't packing boxes. I was signing a lease for our first real office. In 30 days, we'd gone from 0 to 500 users, raised $400,000, and hired our first employees. The platform that started as a desperate attempt to avoid eviction was changing lives. But the moment that mattered most came in a video message from a 12-year-old user named Marcus. "Thank you for making me feel smart. I always knew I was, but now everyone knows too." I cried. Bell's greatest legacy wasn't the billions of phone calls made every day. It was the connections those calls enabled, the I love yous across oceans, the business deals that created jobs, the emergency calls that saved lives. Technology was just the medium. Human connection was the message. 3 years later, when we sold the company for 8 figures, the buyer asked what I was most proud of. I showed him Marcus's video. "That," I said, "everything else is just numbers." Million-dollar businesses aren't built on brilliant ideas. They're built on solving real problems for real people, one conversation at a time. If this story inspired you, share it with someone who needs to remember that their biggest breakthrough might be just 30 days away. The phone call that changed everything. Remember that phone I didn't answer at the beginning of this story? It was my brother, calling to tell me he'd just been accepted into engineering school, the same program that had rejected him twice before. "I couldn't have done it without your app," he said when I finally called back. "It taught me how my brain works. Now I use those techniques for everything." Bell invented the telephone to help his loved ones communicate. I built a company to help my brother learn. Both journeys led to millions, but the millions were never the point. The point was love. The point was service. The point was refusing to accept that someone you care about should struggle when you have the power to help. Your million-dollar idea is probably hiding in plain sight, disguised as someone else's problem that keeps you awake at night. What will you do about it? Subscribe for more stories of ordinary people achieving extraordinary results. P.S. If you're in your own 30-day countdown right now, facing your own eviction notice, literal or metaphorical, remember this. Bell was told his invention was worthless. I was told the market was too small. Every breakthrough looks impossible until someone makes it inevitable. Your impossible is waiting for you to make it inevitable. Start today.
See if you've made it this far and are ready to prosper. Click on one of the stories appearing on your screen. Each story is a compass guiding you toward true financial prosperity. See you there.